Welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast with your host, Tracy Hayes. Full disclosure here, I have sought after this guest for nearly a year. Her sister's been on the show, and I am very thankful as she is was one of my original guests. The sister before me, however, is a top agent in the family. Her real estate career starting as a site agent for a builder in 2014.
Yep.
Is that correct? She has worked for several large brokerages in her career, and I want to dig deep into that and the changes that she made. Today, Cady. Yeah. I knew I was there. Your sister corrected me.
Long A.
We're Cady Compass, your residential real estate brokerage in Jacksonville, Florida, committed to making your real estate experience more than just a transaction. They love what they do. They love the community. And after all, they live here. They love the 904. Let's welcome the guiding compass to Cady at Compass team, Missy Cady-Kampmeyer at Compass Realty, to the show.
Thank you.
All right, got all that.
Long introduction.
You don't know how many times last night when I was, I try to do it with the day before because that way things are fresh on my mind when I'm reading what I wrote from yesterday.
That's good stuff.
And I'm just repeating how to pronounce. Yeah, it's because your sister corrected me the first time.
Well,
of course. Yeah, I'm sure everyone wants to add the extra D and call it Caddy, and it's Cady.
It's just we're used to it.
It works there. Okay, but I'm really interested in. Because you have a successful team around you. I want to hear a little bit about that. But I also, like we mentioned pre-show, you've been with a couple large brokerages, and I always reaching out. I always think the person listening, as I've reached out to the board of realtors to let me come in for 10, 15 minutes at the beginning of their new agent orientation and talk about the podcast. I don't need to talk about lending or anything like that. The important people that have been on the podcast that are successful, and you guys have done the trials and tribulations of the business, and to hear from all of you and with all the podcast episodes. So hopefully you'll add to that, which I'm confident you will, of your experience and what, the tips that we can give those new agents, or even more importantly, because we know we have thousands of agents already licensed.
Right.
Some of those agents may have hit a lid, or maybe they started with the wrong brokerage that isn't giving them the right leadership. Where can they search out and hopefully get back on track?
Sounds good.
All right. So obviously have interviewed Becky on the show. You guys were born and became teenagers in South Dakota.
We did.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So my family, we grew up in the Midwest, so major work ethic, typical Midwest family. And then my father was an educator. He has a PhD in English literature. He taught at the University of Illinois. And then what he did was he went into selling yearbooks. My grandfather was with Hearth Jones. Mm-hmm. He went into selling yearbooks with my grandfather. And that kind of evolved into him teaching journalism in yearbook classes because the yearbooks weren't perfect enough.
Right.
Because he was an English major.
Right.
So he became really, truly my mentor of hard work and ethics and excellence. Taking something like just a yearbook and looking at it and think, what could we do better? What could we bring? And he created the relationships with the advisors, the principals, the educators. And what that did was it became a bond with the schools. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. It became more than just a side intramural kickball or something.
Yeah.
Now it actually became a place of learning.
And it wasn't a 9-to-4 job for him. It was a passion. Thus, the same thing you mentioned earlier in the intro of it's more than a transaction to me. That's what his motto was. His advisors were his people, the students, what could he do to make a difference? It's the same difference. It's the same work, life, culture balance that I was taught.
Well, it sounds like he, in developing this, and I've had numerous conversations about the visionary, because talking to a lot, a real estate team is a small business.
Yeah,
even an individual is their own small business, and you have the visionary and you have the integrators. And he had this vision, but also sounds like he did a little integration as well. He did motivate some people to actually put his vision of what just a yearbook could be.
Correct. And so what that kind of did for us is that was where he was, and I don't want to say he was limited, but that was just where he was. He raised, I'm one of 5 siblings, and every single one of us are type A personalities. So just imagine family dinners.
Do you guys actually have Thanksgiving?
Well, there are stories. But ultimately, we all, the one thing is that we're taught to bring our gift to the table. Mm-hmm. So each one of us has what we do best. If it's for me with customer service, Becky was great with people and talking on the phone. My brothers were good with sales, the IT part. So all of us brought our game to the table. And what we did was he raised us to be, to think outside the box.
Yeah.
And that is where he was limited here. We would think outside the box.
When you guys do get together, do you have like very competitive
poker games?
Whether it's poker games or board games or whatever.
Oh, you have no idea. For example, we started running as a passion because running, is a great outlet for stress and everything. Yeah. But it's not good enough to just run. My brothers are running the marathon, so now
we're probably started with a 5K and now
right. So we're going to Berlin here in a couple weeks because they're running the marathon.
That's awesome.
And it's not on a charity bib; it is a qualified. So they were qualified to run the race.
They couldn't just sign up and pay
not with
money
those.
To go. Had to qualify. That's awesome.
So
that sounds like a really fun trip to go and compete like that. And even just to be part of it and everything that's going on and how they. I always love learning about other cultures and so forth.
It's great.
Now I studied your LinkedIn, and did you go on to college or anything? Where did you go? Where did you go? Because I know you guys eventually moved to Florida. Right. Your dad got transferred down here and doing business and brought you here to Florida. But I didn't see any. The only college mentioned is you took the real estate course. I think it was a UNF or Florida State College. Yeah.
So I did do. I did a couple semesters of college. Finished high school. Did a couple semesters of college. My dream growing up was I wanted to be a school teacher because I grew up in the school systems and I just thought that. But it took me 2 semesters to realize I was not going to be a school teacher. I'm way too much of an artist, and I like to do my own thing. So 2 semesters, so 1 year, and that was over. Mm-hmm. I actually put my career on hold and started raising a family, but always worked in my family's business.
Right.
I started I was the customer service agent.
It's because at that time, because I know your dad eventually, you guys got into the photography part of it, and that's where you started picking up. They needed customer service.
That's where when I came in, he so kind of going back to what we talked about before, my brothers took it upon themselves that they thought that the yearbook should be stepped up even further, and that every student or child should have the option for a lifestyle shoot. That was never offered in a yearbook. It was always just the cap and gown.
Yeah.
So I believe they were 18 and 16. They went to, I believe it was Wilson, Bowles, and Providence, signed a 4-year contract for photos because we had the yearbook business, and we did not own a camera.
I love it.
And signed the contracts, brought them to my dad, and he was like, we don't do photography. And so we do now. It's a new business.
Your new branch of the...
So they went and got themselves a camera at I believe it was a B&H photo shop in New York.
New York, yep. That's where a lot of this equipment came from.
They flew up there, bought themselves some cameras, and came back and said, you're the customer service person. And thus, that was the beginning of our photography.
That's the one thing you watch movies for stuff like this, but they actually went in and sold something that they had a vision for it, but they didn't, it's not like they said, hey, look at all these other schools where we've done all these other shots. Right. Nothing. But they painted the vision for those decision makers and they went with it. That is, that
And that I would tell you, if there's anything about me, that is how I run my business. It's not about, I mean, we all can put a house on the market. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's thousands of agents, but it's when you live in your authenticity and live who you are and have a passion. Passion is what drives it.
Well, on that, basically the creativity that we're talking, the out of the box thinking, that's like your challenge for the day, isn't
Absolutely.
it? It's like it's your passion, and it's your healthy challenge, like, running the extra mile or whatever it may be.
Right.
Like, how can I make the listing of this house bigger and better?
And what can I do that's different? What, one of my things that I do when I meet a client, or when I get a call or have a prospect, I'll say, I can give you all the comps you need. We all have that data. We all have access to the MLS. We all have everything. We can run our comps. But I need to put eyes on the property, because I want to look and feel and touch everything in marketing and in my business and life experience. It runs on the 5 senses. You have to touch, taste, feel. You have to create the story of a house. Same way you create a story of a child's life through a photo, it has to pop. It needs to jump off that page. What am I going to do? But I got to feel it. I got to see it. I got to touch it.
What's unique about, just like you mentioned a child, what's unique about that child? What is it about them that everyone, draws them to them? Because everybody has that.
Every child has a story.
Right.
But it's up to me to listen, to feel, to observe, and not be so wrapped up in me and my accolades and, I've sold this and I've done this, but to actually sit and talk
Paint
with
the
you.
story of the house.
And listen.
Obviously draw out the highlights of it. Those types of things, yes.
And create it and listen and feel and then take it to my creativity and say, okay, what can I do?
So that someone listening right now, maybe, I always think of someone who's may take that, what you're saying, and going, I can't do that.
Oh, absolutely you can.
And the thing is, yes, what makes, I think, our business unique, whether it's me doing a podcast and I'm a loan officer to meet realtors, that's the obvious, or you going out and making a house look really great to add to your name, to your Cady Realty at Compass.
Right, I'll just say that.
Yes, Cady Realty at Compass. Yes, but you're constantly building your brand in a subtle way that go market. Just people go out there and do crazy TikTok videos.
Right.
If that's your thing, TikTok is right
Roll
there
it.
with YouTube right now as a search engine to figure out things. I'm like, holy cow, what?
Right.
So I got to get on TikTok, but you got to do you.
That, and I would say, if you tell what people are listening, do you.
Yeah.
Do you the best version of you. I wouldn't do a podcast because it's just not me.
Right.
Maybe I would in 6 years. I don't know, 5 years, but it's just not my thing.
Right.
But who you are and what you do it your best. Go all out.
Go all out.
Be you. Because authenticity, people have a high bullshit reverse. Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, people.
No, it's a podcast. You say that you want.
Humanity knows humanity.
Yeah.
So if I would come in here and say, and try to be somebody I'm not, you would feel that. So why not just be authentic and real? Because humans connect with humans.
I think you would agree with this, between social media and then just our influx of the reality shows that we have come accustomed to, that we're actually, some of them you could tell, that there is a little Hollywood involved in some of the things, especially after they've been going on for a while. They understand the cameras. But I mean, go watch Naked and Afraid. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's people are getting out there, and people are attracted to that.
Yep.
Realness that you're talking about, and you got to do you. And if people, there's going to be people that like you for who you are, and hopefully not so many that don't, but there are going to be some don'ts. And the reality is, you just got to keep driving on. Don't worry about
I
that.
learned early in my career, and it was one of the best lessons I ever learned, was I can't try to make everyone like me, because my tribe will be attracted to me. I will not be the agent for every person. Number one, I can't sell every house in Jacksonville, nor do I want to. There's enough business for all of us. And for me, it is who I attract to. Those are the people that will work with me.
Yeah.
I might not connect with another person.
100%. I mean, we are attracted to like kind. And when you start to hang out with someone, and the more and more you find out, and you're like, oh, wow, we have a lot in common. And it's some of the stuff, it's like even unsaid.
Right.
Or all of a sudden it comes out and somewhere else it goes, oh yeah, I like to do that too. We never even talked about that before. Like kind will attract each other, and I think the more you put yourself out there, the more attractive you are.
Yeah.
Because you're going to find more and more of those people are going to see you and come out there. 100% agree there. So we talked about so you're working with the family, and you're the customer service. What leads you in 2014 to go and work for
change gears?
Change gears.
So
and become a site agent of all
right.
Yeah.
This
is a tough gig.
Yeah. It was. That is just not for me.
Yeah.
So my family's business went from being a small family business, and as it grew, it became more corporate. Mm-hmm. My father retired, and my brothers took over, but it also, that changed the dynamics of the family business for a couple of years. We lost Dad's, presence, mm-hmm. which was probably a good thing, because he needed to quit emptying the trash out and allow the business to grow.
Right.
But it was transitional. They hired some out of family people, changed it so it became super corporate and mm-hmm. not family. And I'm a rule breaker sometimes. I imagine expanding, you're taking on more schools, and you're reaching out, and it just changes. And so there became more corporate rules in place. It used to be that I had the codes to go print the pictures, the missing packages for the families. Well, now you had to go through the line of, you had to put the
bureaucracy.
Yes, the red tape. So it just became where it was no longer a good working relationship, and I quit.
Right.
I quit and worked part-time, sales jobs, didn't like it, and then had an opportunity to sit in a new model center and kind of try that out, and that started my journey. I got my real estate license while working as a site agent. Mm-hmm. So I sat there in the model home and studied, and eventually just all I did was try to become an assistant for a team. That's what I wanted to be, was just work behind the scenes, because I was used to doing that.
Then you wouldn't have to work on Saturday.
Right. 9 to 5.
Yeah.
What a novel idea, right?
So you jump in, and that you are the agent now in the model. What are some of the things that you learned quickly, or the understanding of the business when, from that builder side, from the site agent side, versus now obviously you're on the real estate agent side, which there oftentimes is some animosity mm-hmm. between the two.
Right.
So maybe you can explain why, because I can't figure out why certain people operate like that. It just mind boggles me. It's poor for business. It's poor. You're just worried about that one deal versus the longevity of the bigger picture.
Or the relationship.
There is a tomorrow. There will be next month, and there will be a next year, and many more clients in between, buyers in between. So, what are some of the things you took out of that?
For me, it was creating the relationships between agents. That from the beginning, I found if you create a relationship with the other side, ultimately, as a transactional broker, we are just working to get that to the closing table. Along the way, we are creating the relationships with our clients, our customers, but a huge piece of it is the other agent. And there's no reason to mark our territory. Yeah. There is zero reason when we all need to come together. And the goal is to have such a good relationship that when I see them on the street, when I see them come across my desk on another transaction, it's like, oh, I remember that.
Yep.
We had champagne at the closing table. Did you remember how they fought for us? So coming out of the builder side, that was something that I wanted to implement in my starting base level is working with the other agent.
So now 7 years later, removed from there, you're very successful on this side, and obviously you've seen the transition from last summer to this summer. Now the builders want to reach out and entertain you. It's like, where were you last year?
Right.
I just don't understand the mindset. Do you want all of the grape or half the watermelon? I don't understand why you would not be consistently trying to win every real estate agent over in town to bring all their clients by.
Right.
Knowing that they're going to get great experience because you're having a great experience. And you want to, I just don't understand that. It mind boggles me and from the marketing standpoint. And I realize a lot of these builders, even some of the big guys that come from out of town, not necessarily in town, as you know, some of them that have created in town, but out of town, they're still hammering a nail. And they're not actually pulling themselves out and going, hey, how can I get every realtor to show my houses over the other builders?
I think it's short-term thinking.
Yeah.
Instead of long-term relationship building, it is for the transaction, it's for the commission check, it's short-term. Not looking at, I know, as you know, when we were going through the COVID craze and then the market blowing up, there was no thought in my mind that, oh, this is the new norm. This is where we're at.
It's never going to stop.
Oh, yay, this is it.
Yeah.
No, it was always thinking, okay, this is 2020. What is 2022 going to look like? And I don't ever want to get so busy in 2020 and 2021 that I lose the relationship building process that I built.
Yes.
And I think that is where people get short-sighted, is they quit looking at the long game and what do you really want? It's like Billy's book is sitting here. Billy built a business on values, and now it's sustainable.
Yes. At a high level.
Very high level. First time I ever met him, I just literally, you talk about connecting to people, I was like, oh my God, I'll do business with Brightway for the rest of my life because of his connection to what his values are. Right.
100%. The short term, it's like, oh, okay, we're going to save a few dollars here because we're not going to, we're going to try to cut realtors out of deals. This is a builder trying to cut realtors out of deals. So now they dislike us. Now they're talking trash about us. And now with social media, of course, it goes around like wildfire. And then all of a sudden the market turns and you're like begging them to show up to a social. And it's like, why didn't you just spend a couple of dollars last year and kept the relationship going and welcome them in, knowing, because they do know, stuff happens. We have seasons, as we talked about earlier, whether they're 2 weeks, 2 months, or 2 years, there's seasons. What goes up comes down. That's our business. And it just mind boggles me. You were talking about how things change. In 2008, was November 2008, rates started to drop. It's just October 29th, 2008, 6.25 was your 30-year fix. From there, it dropped. And every day since then, for the last dozen years, actually more than a dozen years now, almost 14 years, 13, when are the rates going to come up? And now they finally have come up. We went over a decade. So we were waiting. We had to be prepared. But as your business, everyone went into shock. Luckily, we're in Northeast Florida. There is still stuff going on. But everyone goes into shock, and they forgot to do the basics, the relationship building that you're talking about, treating every customer, and it just became a mill. And now all of a sudden, it's going back to you actually have to go out and meet people and talk and build a relationship and show them that you're going to take care of their clients. And then so that you're going to see, that's why the loan world, people are rolling out of that.
Well, and it's damage control, because you have people that kept those relationships through these times, and it's solid. But then you have builders or agents that have not treated other agents great. Right. Then now it's back to, oh, friend, old buddy, well, there's a little bit of damage control there. Just saying.
Agents talk, and especially the top agents. I'm going to tell you right now, if you're listening to this, I've interviewed over 80 of the best in Northeast Florida. They talk to each other. They run into each other at socials because they do show up and stuff. And if you're one of those agents, they love to tell the story about how you were not so nice on the other side of that phone. Whatever situation it may be. And the reality is, when you know you have an experienced top agent on the other end, you should be very cool, because they probably can help you go get the transaction done, because they want the transaction done just as much as you do, if not more.
Exactly.
So that is a tip. And it was I was just talking to yesterday. It was actually a fairly new agent. She'd only been in the business maybe, I don't even know if it's been a couple of years yet, but she realized Jacksonville, the Northeast Florida, is a big area, but it's very small, and who knows who. Everybody
knows everyone.
Yes.
So I say it's the biggest, littlest town.
Yes, 100%. All right, so you, as you site agent, you just, and I think the first brokerage and if you want to mention the brokerage, I'll allow you to do it. I'll leave them there. But if you go to a big name brokerage, what broke you from the builder to jump out and get on your own side?
It was really for me is I always challenge myself. And when I feel like I'm going stagnant, I love to pivot. I love to change. I love to grow. And being a site agent was not my gig. It can be gig for someone, but it just wasn't for me. So I decided to strike out and become a single agent. And I just put in a request online that I wanted to work at a brokerage in Jacksonville. Was contacted by Berkshire Hathaway and met with them. I met with several others, but absolutely fell in love with the broker at Fleming Island. To this day, I love her. I love their business. I love everything about them. They have the single agent model, and so that's where I did. I just jumped right into that. And as a new agent, Tenacity.
Was the site, for someone brand new, never sold real estate before, and getting their license, was going through the test of a site agent worth the journey?
It was great, because I got the opposite side of what the builder side is, but I also, sitting in a model center, kind of got the agent feel of working with people, but knowing on the builder side kind of what they do and where their margins and so it gave me, knowledge is power.
You got people walking in, so you're not necessarily having to do the hunt yourself yet. Right. So the builder's doing the marketing, bringing the people in, and you're getting some at-bats. How to present a home. Learning that, creating my own verbiage, dialogues, understanding what works at that time. Right. All right. So you go to Berkshire Hathaway. What are some of the things? I mean, just was this a conversation that went on, or was like just one really good conversation? You're like, I'm home.
There was a couple conversations. I went to different brokerages, but first off, home would be what I felt immediately. I met with Linda, Shear, and Christy at their corporate office, and I loved their care of me individually. I was a brand new agent, but they actually took the time to sit and talk with me, which is very rare on a corporate level. So that was pretty much my decision. I was going to start there, had no plans of ever changing, and dove headfirst in. Sold a lot of real estate my first year for a new agent. I think I sold like 36 houses.
Yep. Wow.
And Tenacity, if I would give any advice, is Tenacity.
So we talk about as a site agent, you got this fancy model. You're going to the same place every day, which obviously probably drove you nuts.
Very boring.
Yes, because there's a lot of times you were probably there all day and didn't see anyone.
Very much so.
Now you jump out on your own, and you are on your own. You got to create your own meal ticket. What are you doing? Is this something you learned as a site agent, or now that you learned how to hey, I'm confident in talking to people and buyers, that now I can really dive into Berkshire Hathaway's marketing plan and prospecting plan? What is it that really shot you up real quick?
never giving up, number one, and just wanting to show that I could do it drove me. Obviously, being a driver, that does help. Mm-hmm. But I would never, my goal was I would never leave. I sat at Starbucks with my laptop and a sign that says I'm a realtor, a large sign, and I wouldn't leave until I had a lead. And there were days I would sit for 10 hours. I would talk to every single person.
That is a good one. I love that.
I had a lead. And my first listing ever was from a lady that was knitting next to me, sitting at Starbucks over here at Julington. And we talked about knitting. I told my mom actually knit, showed her pictures. She told me they were getting transferred. I was like, well, I'm a realtor. I'm a new realtor. I was very open with people saying I was new. Will you give me a chance?
Did you tell Jason this story?
No.
Okay, because I know you do a lot of business with Jason, and he had this.
I might have told him this story.
He had this thing last week where he was like, he went on social media, went on Facebook, and said, "Hey, me and Aaron, we're going to be at this restaurant in Nocatee, and if you come by and you talk to us, real estate agents," he directed to real estate agents, so not anyone, where you were open to anyone to come talk to you. They said, any real estate agents want to come and we're going to be at this restaurant from 11 to 1 or whatever it was. We're going to buy you lunch.
I love it.
And that's what made me, when you started telling that story, it made me think of him doing that video. But wow,
So that's how I built my pipeline. I mean, people, I knew people in Jack, obviously, from working in the school systems, but my brothers did not want me to cross over and use my database. Mm-hmm. Since it was with the school, it was protected. So I had pretty much a zero sphere, zero people that I contacted. So that's how I started. Well, I did not buy a lead.
I know your sister was, the football mom that she had boys. And being in Ponte Vedra, which I think obviously helped her launch her circle. Yeah,
that helped huge.
Yeah. Did you have any?
My kids were all when I started my career, my kids were all out of the house.
Okay. And
so it was just me coming, and I would sit at that Starbucks, and I built my sphere that way.
Wow.
And
so little real estate sign, or hey, we all got laptops, or like I got the iPad here. You could put, hey, I'm a real estate agent, or I'm a loan officer right there on the
and
day.
Maybe that worked for then. I don't know if I would do that now, but you know what? I was so willing to do anything.
You have an advantage. I always think women have powers that they don't realize they have. But there's a lot of guys who probably would have saw a real estate agent, an attractive woman sitting there, and go, "Oh, let me go over and talk to her."
Right.
Yeah.
I also door knocked. I door knocked extensively.
Yeah.
And I would wait. I would door knock, especially if there was handyman trucks in the driveway.
Oh, interesting.
Because 9 out of 10, they were doing something.
Expand on that a little bit, the door knocking, because people say that, from that standpoint. And I know there's Justin with Century 21. He likes to go to yard sales.
Okay.
And he's gotten listed because he just goes up and starts talking to them. Kind of the same thing. The same opportunities. You're putting yourself in an opportunity to speak to somebody and tell them what you do, and you just don't know who they know. Yep. And if you don't, so when you were going up and just doing raw door knocking, role play that a little bit with me. How did that go?
I would usually knock at the door and just say, hey, my name is Missy. I work with Berkshire Hathaway or wherever I was working at the time. Mm-hmm. And I say, I don't know if you have any plans of selling your home, but I saw that there's a handyman here in the driveway, and if you need anything, would love to talk with you. Have you seen what your values are in your house? And, there's a lot of times that you wouldn't get anything.
But they just take your card and,
I started changing it a little bit when I would do, obviously as a new agent, I did a ton of open houses. So I would pre-door knock and just let the neighbors know that there were going to be an open house and there'll be more traffic in the area. Mm-hmm. Introducing myself, talking a little bit about me, if there was a connection to be made, noting that there was a connection, because you don't have a connection with everybody.
in that situation, would you see the connection, especially, because I'm sure you invited them down to come visit the open house. So if they actually showed up to the open house, now you actually had some, now you're getting a second swing. Now they must have felt welcome. You invited them and now they showed up.
Absolutely.
And now you can start to build a little, so you set kind of put the bait out there and see who would show up.
And then creating those relationships, like, hey, you guys want to grab some coffee? I have found, and I know this is majorly out of the box, but I found that when I was not selling real estate, I sold real estate.
Yeah.
And that's how I have built my business, is when I wasn't selling, and it's not taking someone to coffee because I want their business, or they might have a house to sell, or an aunt or an uncle. They teach you that in all those mini scripts of, who can your hairdresser? Well, maybe not go after them as, hey, do you have a house to sell? How about truly, let's have a cup of coffee.
Right.
And I have found my best friends are my clients, customers, people that I've connected to, and then I did sell real estate.
Because you knew and understood to be successful as an agent, you had to build a network, and it might not be that person in front of you who's buying or selling a home. You don't know who they know, and you don't know who know. But if you can make them a lifelong, I call it an advocate, is to go out and make as many advocates as you can out there. One, so no one can talk trash about you. Someone says, "Oh, I'm working with Missy." Yeah, I know Missy. She's cool.
Right.
Because if you don't know, in the loan officer world, and this is common everywhere, like, I'm working with John Smith with XYZ Mortgage. Well, I can talk a lot of stuff about John Smith because I don't know John Smith. But if I know John Smith, it's very hard for me to say something negative about him, because we probably had some sort of conversation. We built a relationship. And even if I'm like disappointed, I'm not getting the deal. They say, well, hey, John's a good deal. John's a good guy. If there are any problems, give me a call. You've made those advocates out there. So you're and obviously, hopefully, I would imagine a goal, if you weren't doing it, you started doing it and coached to do it, is make sure you get those people on your Christmas card list or whatever.
Right. And I think a sidebar conversation, I hope you don't mind me
saying.
Yeah,
no, good. This is good stuff.
Is that the advocacy that you're talking about is not necessarily anything to do monetarily or real estate. It has, for me, come to be lifesavers in a friend that I needed to pick up a phone to call. Or a great example of it is my husband was in a really bad car accident, and one of my door knocking ended up being a doctor that I did sell a house to, but he called me every single day while we were in the hospital to talk with the doctors to find out what's going on, and then he would get me on the phone and he'd say, listen to me, this is all you need to focus on. And those are things that are invaluable. And he got me in contact with a lawyer. I've never sold a house to these people. But it's those connections that are non-monetary, and they are things that you cannot put a price on. That's why I sell real estate.
100. Well, I don't know if it's just why you was. Yes,
that's why.
Because you've spent time on those relationships, and those people found something in you, and it's nothing more powerful to refer. Hey, I know somebody. I'm president of my alumni association. I refer to them a lot on the show, and I know people are in different areas, and because we have this relationship, even though we didn't actually go to school together, we went to the same school. The military guys are a lot like that. They treaded over the same turf. And when you pick up the phone with them, or in this case, the doctor, in all of your life, how many, the middle school percentage that you actually spent time with them, but you spent enough time to bond a little bit.
Absolutely.
And then when he saw that you were in need and needed that advice. He took it upon him because he knows people
Right.
to be that, and it wasn't monetarily to him.
No, not like,
at all. You weren't paying him for consultation.
Not at all.
and he just took it upon himself to do that. And I think that's the greatest feeling. Obviously, hope he felt good that he made you feel more comfortable, as much comfortable as he could in your situation. And then it just rolls from one person versus making it a financial transaction.
Right. And, of course, this is our profession, and this is what we do to make a living. And, I mean, everyone has to make a living. This is my profession. But if I would, the relationships and the things that I have gotten from the people that I've connected with, that's what keeps me going. I've never met so many.
I'm trying to think of the title
people.
of this podcast. I almost want to call it. I would call it connections. Because you just used that word, and it's really what we've really been digging deep in is going out and making a difference in other people's lives. It could be just saying hi and smiling. It's not saying you have to financially support.
It's like the pay it forward thing.
Yeah.
And it's my, this model might not be for everyone, but for me, I roll authentically real to who I am. Mm-hmm. And I had years ago a coach, a business coach, say to me, I was trying the not the door knocking, the calling expireds, and I was dying on the vine. I hated it, but I was supposed to do it. You're supposed to do your blah 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 blah.
Right.
Trying to follow all these scripts. And he said to me one day, he said, you need to do what makes your heart sing. And he was like, what is that? What makes your heart sing? And I was like, people make my heart sing. And he said, go talk to people. Don't pick up the phone again. Now, most real estate coaches, hopefully they aren't watching this. They'll be like, why aren't you picking up the phone? I pick up the phone. But for me, my success lied in making my heart sing. And when I talk with people, so you have to do you. You
can 10x your heart sing. You could not 10x the calling the expired.
Because I was nothing, it's like, it just was like a grind, and that doesn't make me happy. So why should I do something that doesn't make me happy?
The breeze is just blowing through me right now.
So there's me.
And this is your tip you're hearing lots of tips from Missy, but right now this is my tip. Too many companies are too set in their ways.
Yep.
And I will tell you, call reluctancy is a big thing.
It's huge.
In our industry, we are told to do it. We don't like to do it. If you can find someone that did, great. Go play the lottery. There is people that actually will do it. Mm-hmm. You pay them to do it. You take that pressure off of you and me. Let someone else set our coffee appointments. Let's set the whatever they're trying to accomplish by the call.
Right.
And do it. Make your heart sing. Do what you do best. If your best is sitting there doing coffees, find someone that's going to schedule you coffee appointments all day long.
It's like you said, 10x what you do good.
Yes.
10x your gifts, your ability.
If you enjoy getting up in the morning and going, hey, this is great. I'm going to go out and meet some new realtors and sit and have coffee. I'm using my side of the story here in this analogy. And that's where your strength is. There's other people that are strong at sitting in a cube and behind a computer, and really, if they talk to anyone that's on the phone, they don't actually are comfortable face to face.
That's what collaboration. That is what we
makes us a civilization.
I always like to use the analogy of a band. If everyone was a lead singer, it would be horrific.
Yes.
But the lead singer gets, the accolade, the lead singer. But if the lead singer was there with no backup, no drums, just
no
playing,
bass, yep.
It would be like, okay, great one song, but if everybody was a drummer,
right?
Oh my God, I'd walk out.
Right.
But
you
can think freaking love drums.
There's so many analogies out there, whether it's a ship with sailors on it, they have different chores they've got to do, or you could use all sorts of military things. I use there's guys that carry the rifle, but there's also guys that need to bring the chow up, bring the the supply lineup. There's just all these things that they've got to do involved. And when companies start looking at their thing, going, okay, who's good at the face to face? Who will sit over there and do a dialer and doesn't care if someone says no to them? They'll just let the dialer keep going. And there are people that like to do that. You can hire them out. I know one of the excuses is, well, if you do it, you'll get more. No, the reality is, if they call 100 people and get 2 to have coffee with me, maybe I might have gotten 3 or 4, but I just wasted 3 hours of the day.
Well, and if it's not, if you're
and I'm miserable.
And if you're miserable, that's going to come off.
Yes.
For me, talking with people is just, I love meeting people.
Doing you, maybe that might be the title. All right, we're getting off on a tangent.
I love it.
All right, so you go from Berkshire Hathaway to Coldwell.
Yes.
Okay. What was the transition there? What was Coldwell? What changes did you want in your life at that time? What was going on?
So, being truly transparent and honest, it wasn't the brokerage that I joined. I went from being a single agent, and my brother Jeremy, who ran a team at Coldwell, had been bugging me to join his team.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah.
So that was the transition to move to Coldwell. I was very sad leaving Berkshire Hathaway because I loved the people. I loved the people there. But moving to that, so I went from being a single agent and joined a team because what I wanted was, I wanted knowledge. I wanted to know what that was like. I wanted to be challenged. So joined Jeremy's team at Coldwell. It was just the two of us. He had an admin, so it was just the two of us. And he had given me a goal to sell like 40 some houses. So I was like, I'll sell 60. So that was my challenge to prove that I could do that.
To your older brother. I'm just guessing he's older.
Younger
brother. The older sister was going to do it.
I was going to show him, yes. So that was kind of the transition going from both the brokerages. It had nothing to do with choosing a brokerage. It was choosing a life change. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Joining up with my family. I absolutely loved working with my family. Talking about making your heart sing, that has always made my heart sing. And I love Jeremy. Our working relationship is outstanding. Absolutely outstanding.
So that's where the Cady Team name comes from.
Right.
And it's at what point you actually take over the team?
So we were with Coldwell, and then he wanted to move to Atlanta. And we had started talking to different brokerages, and Keller Williams at the time had what they called a team platform that they were launching, and that was in dual markets. So it would have allowed us to work in Florida, Georgia, the Florida, Georgia market under one team name, a website that would split between the two. So it was very attractive to be able to work 2 markets and continue our business.
What I find interesting, and you've worked for different brokers, because I've heard this talking to the agents, that they've gone to this other brokerage because the structure, like you just mentioned, they had this team concept going. Is it that some of the brokerages are very rigid in the way they do things?
Yes.
Others are probably footloose and fancy free, I would imagine. You probably have 2 ends of the extreme. What is it? Is it how they're rigid because of how the commission splits and things and all those things that go on in your world happen that makes them that rigid, or just their belief?
I think it's how their leadership and how they're actually structured. Because when you really get down to it, the nuts and the bolts of it, the bottom lines are all fairly similar. I mean, you can have a higher split, a lower split, desk fees, blah blah blah, but it is the structure of the actual brokerage, and the companies they're a lot different. I've been at several big box brokerages, and like I said, I moved to Coldwell for the team with Jeremy, but moving to Keller was a strategic move to have the team platform, which did not happen.
Did pan out as you guys envisioned?
Right. It did not. It just that just didn't happen. So fell forward.
then you actually went out with your own
Right.
boutique brokerage, Cady Realty.
That was my love.
Yeah, so I mean, so you the Keller Williams not working out. You go. Jeremy's out of the picture now. He's in Atlanta.
I bought the team from him.
You actually had to pay him for it?
I did.
Generous. So
well, I did get his book of business, so.
Okay.
You know.
All right. So you have your own boutique shop in Jax Beach area, right? Is where you're
in Avondale.
In Avondale. Okay. And you've got your own thing, but now obviously recently, and because of time, we're not going to get too long here. Compass comes in as you were telling the story, and they want you to be part of them.
Right. So I'd never. Once I left Keller Williams, I wanted to become independent. I wanted that experience, and I loved it. I loved being me. I loved rolling me. Everyone that has seen my little brokerage, it's me. Mm-hmm. It is. Music is always playing. There's wine in the fridge. The door is always propped open unless it's 150 degrees outside. Yeah. People are welcome in. They can bring their dogs in. We have people sitting on our couches. And I wanted that experience because that's what makes me feel alive. And I have found when I am good, it goes this way. Well, having the brokerage I loved every minute of it. But it also... It's a lot of work. It is a lot of work, and I found that I had zero free time. And I'm a workaholic. Right.
Well, this was beyond. You weren't in your heart. What's the term you used before?
My heart wasn't singing.
Your heart singing. Yeah, maybe we got to call it that. Heart singing.
Heart song.
Yeah. Missy Cady-Kampmeyer.
This is getting
heart singing.
I'm not sure about that.
Title. We're going on different topics here. We've got. I'll have to think.
This is like your most unique podcast.
Well, it's a good one.
Wow.
There's a lot of energy here. But that it took you away from what you made your heart sing, in which oftentimes if you're doing something you like doing, you do it well and you end up being successful at it. And when you're pulled away from there, and I'm sure you have seen, there's a lot of people, they have a team, but they've let somebody else do all that other stuff. Do the stuff they think the broker should be doing because their part, what they love doing is what made the whole thing happen.
And that would be where I would say is a failure moment for me. Mm-hmm. Was the brokerage was the best thing I ever did, but because of the minutia of the back office stuff, and even though I had people that were doing that, I still had my fingers in too much. And what that happened was my stress level went up, my attention to detail on culture and things and our team, that whole thing, it started crumbling.
Yep.
And that was in my health, everything. It was just like, this is too much. And I am a huge believer in the book, The Alchemist. I've read that.
What's the name of it?
The Alchemist.
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 Okay. Like alchemist.
Yeah. Alchemist.
Alchemist is how it's pronounced. Okay.
And it's about not having so much the end goal, but enjoying the journey along the way.
Yes.
And there's a section in that book that he talks about. He left his homeland he sold his whole sheep, whatever, his flock. Mm-hmm. Took a boat, got off in a new country that didn't speak his language. He was robbed, so he was left on the shore with no money, no job, and in a foreign country. And at the end of that chapter, he had a new skill. He had learned a new trade. He had more money than he started out with and new friends, and he was on a new path. And had he not been robbed and left there, and had he not taken that chance, he wouldn't have learned a new language or a new trade or had more. So I am a huge believer in that whatever comes your way, roll with it.
Well, if you're listening, to, whether it's a great podcast or even some of these little motivational things that come out on Instagram or whatever, these motivational speakers where people will put together their videotapes, their clips and stuff. And 100% of them tell you, you have to enjoy the journey. You're not going to be motivated by the financial gain or whatever it may be at the end. If it's too far away, if your reward is not like within minutes, as most humans and most Americans, we're going to give up on it. But if your enjoyment is the journey, I mean, you'll get there, but that's really what's going to keep you going, is you enjoying and doing the heartfelt thing that I think so many managers, so many corporations, they have to look at their people and stop just hiring bodies. And I know we want to interview people and think they're a great person, and we really want to hope that they will be great, but they need to actually be forced to go find where their spot is. I think everyone has a spot.
Everyone.
Some people, it takes longer to find the spot than others. Guaranteed. There's some people might take their whole life to finally find, you know what, this is what I really enjoy doing. But there's I've interviewed some great real estate agents that are sub 30 years old, and they have found their niche, and they're just 10xing that thing, whoever they're following, and it's enjoying the journey, that 100%.
And it's also not, it's also going all in on the one thing and not trying to do everything good, because I have found that if you try to do everything, you do a mediocre job.
Yeah.
And it's like I can't be a cook and a cleaner and blah, blah, blah. I just need to do one or two things really good, and that's good enough.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have to be a marathoner. I don't have to be I don't have to do all of these things. Well, but I just want to do something really good.
Let's break that down real quick for the listeners, for you and your daily thing. You're the relationship builder.
Yep.
Building the advocates and so forth. So on a daily routine with Cady Realty, what roles are you filling, and then what roles do you have other people filling to make the whole thing work?
So now, in where I am as of today, when I am the relationship builder and I am the point of the contact. Mm-hmm. It's when someone calls, I connect with them, they talk, I find out.
Now, they always get you?
Most of the time they do. It's either me or my office manager, Caitlin, and we take the calls and we talk to them. I find out about them, what their dog's name, what they like for breakfast. Create the story. I'm hearing and listening to what they are, writing it down, creating it, and then connect it to one of my agents. And we always do a meet and greet with me and an agent. And then
so is it a handoff, an endorsement?
It is, and because I have found that when you just hand it off, it looks like you're getting...
John's going to call you tomorrow.
John's going to call you. Yeah. No, I'm going to be involved. We do a group chat. So it's a small scale of creating the relationships. And it's also teaching my agents the same type of skills. Because I want each one of my agents to be an extension of me. They need to, if somebody gets Paige, they get me. They get Becky, they get me. I know, fun stories. Becky and I have been able to interchange so well that she can go out as me or I can go out as her, and we are the same. Wow. Because we just treat people at that level.
Right.
And it doesn't matter.
So how many agents you've got now on the team?
We have 4 agents on our team, including me.
Okay.
So we're a very, very small team.
So how often are you actually, are you doing open houses on Saturday?
I will do an open house if all the other agents are busy. I do the open house. Okay.
And then you've got some support people.
Yes, I do.
What you got in the back office?
So I've got my office manager. I have a social media coordinator, and I also have a virtual assistant that is absolutely my godsend. She works in the Philippines, and she does everything from transactions. She's my listing coordinator, my transaction manager, and does every project I could ever dream of at 3 a.m.
I am hearing more and more of this. It's talk in the loan officer world. I was sharing it with one of my teammates today. I've talked to a good friend of mine who's also an agent, obviously, and it has changed his, because all those things, especially if you're a solo agent out there right now, you're not in have a full office like you got, where you're handing off the open house to somebody's there, but where you're trying to do everything. And what he's neglected for years, which probably capped his growth, was like doing the regular things like following up with past clients, making sure different marketing things were going on, different touch campaigns and that sort of stuff was not going on. So he got the virtual assistant, and now that stuff is going on. And he's like, wow, what I've been like neglecting and has literally been piling up, my virtual assistant got done in a couple of days.
Right. It's because they're like, I think all of us as realtors, we live with like every loop open. And after a while, when you have so many open loops in your brain, you've actually got to stop and shut some down. Yeah. Because you cannot effectively work at a high level if you have a million open loops.
I call all the tabs on the computer.
Yeah, same thing.
Too many things open.
Sometimes I'll tell my family, I'm going to go shut down some loops today. I'm not available because I just have got to deal with it.
I mean, it took a thought. It wasn't a thing like, when you started the business, and I'm going to go, hey, eventually I'm going to have virtual assistants.
No, never.
And then the confidence in it, but they're getting better and better. And there's these companies now that are, I know of one, Amy Ransdell, I had her on. She has a company where she actually W-2s these virtual assistants in the Philippines and gives them benefits. That's cool. They're very inexpensive. Even that was a little more expensive than some of the other things I heard, but they're still. We're talking about dollars an hour, right? Not even tens of dollars an hour, but dollars an hour. And these people are educated. For the most part, can speak English very well, and especially if they're just doing admin work, all they have to do is communicate with you.
My virtual assistant has an engineering degree, and she was a project manager, so her level of skills, I mean, that is something I don't have. I will fully admit.
The detail, spreadsheet.
Don't give me those things. Yeah. My idol in life is Sarah Blakely. I love her. And her business plan, she's like, what business plan? red backpack. But she lives by passion. Right. And, I know you have to run a company and it has to have numbers and I know all that. But I have people for that. Yeah. And I have learned to hire people for the skills you don't have and just roll with your skill. Right. Roll your skill.
100, that might be a title. Roll with your.
we have like a million titles for this.
If there's anything anyone's getting out of the show right now is listening. This is if you are really digging in. I've had a coach for the last year in the loan officer world, and I'm trying to explain it to some of my leaders here. It's still over their head because they're not digging in and actually learning. As I'm sure you're going to conferences or you're listening to people in the world. This is what the movers and groovers are doing. Grant Cardone is going to tell you this. You've got to 10x what you do, right? And when you find, I think one of the greatest things, unfortunately for me, later in life, I wish I was, 20 years ago, or I'll say 30 years ago, I graduated from college, so I give myself a little time. I wish I knew what I knew, today, at least to find out what is it that you do and you like to do, and when you put yourself in that position. That's when your business is going to explode because you will 10x. You'll love getting up in the morning. You'll have that attitude when you're talking to people on the phone. You're going to be attractive just because of the energy and positivity that are going to be around you. And
I've learned to fuel the things that make me feel that way. Mm-hmm. There's people, events. I love community. Community is my jam. I'm not building a big, huge transactional team.
Are you when you walk into the room, are you the, they always ask that question, in a personality test. When you walk in the room, are you like the, I want to call it partier, but just like the attraction of attention? Are you one of those types?
Could be.
Are you a little shyer?
No,
or
I'm not.
You just come out and you go?
To me, there's no one is a stranger.
Yeah.
There is not a stranger.
Okay.
That's probably why I could sit at Starbucks for 10 hours but so then that goes back to do who you are. And even though I didn't know that's who I was, I still was going with that because that's all I knew.
Right.
And I think if we don't second guess ourselves and we don't doubt ourselves, that's who we are.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Because we're going to finish up here. We're a little over an hour right now, but I want to finish up the last couple minutes. How important, and we're talking about the new agent, or as we talked earlier, that agent maybe is just capped out, it's been doing this for a year, hasn't had so much success, hasn't given up yet, has probably thought about it. But some of the key things that I hear from a lot, education, knowing the business.
Skill set. Knowledge is power.
Right.
Talk to people. Learn. Want to learn. Hear from people. I mean, I'm continually learning. Mm-hmm. I'm always, it's like, what can I hear? What nugget can I take into my business that connects to me, into my business? It's, and I think we're in an information age. Mm-hmm. We hear so much. And so you kind of get that analysis, paralysis of analysis. Like, oh my God, I'm not doing this and I'm not doing this. Mm-hmm. But you can't do everything. Pick one thing and stick with it consistently and do it.
But you can learn something every day, something new about the industry, something new about the area. Maybe it's a new restaurant that you want to, whatever it is, as a real estate agent, I think you're selling lifestyle.
Absolutely.
You're selling, what is it about you're maybe working in a certain neighborhood that was built by a certain builder. Maybe you want to learn, whatever that little thing is, learn that little niche. But I also feel that, there's a lot of different things that are educational pieces, some better than others. Whether it's at the board of realtors and more of a structure, or Landmark Title's doing a lot of stuff around. You got to show up, because you're going to run into other agents that maybe you don't know yet.
Right.
Go around and introduce yourself. You meet some new people from that standpoint. But just taking that time every day or each week to add, maybe it might be a podcast or a book or something that just gives you another little nugget and keep building your knowledge of the industry. Would you agree that education can give you a lot of confidence?
Education gives you almost all of it, because it gives you the validity of, for example, yesterday I had a lady call me and want to know about it was a home in Riverside, and she was doubting her current realtor's comps. And so I explained to her, I said, here's the reason that it's solid is it has a 2-car garage. And in our area, when it's a wrap property, you can't go build a 2-car garage. Can't. But because
Priceless.
There's one there, it's regulated.
Yeah.
With the historic district.
If it has a 2-car garage, it's priceless, because you can't.
Priceless, you can't. Or if there's just a slab, if it had been knocked down, you can build. But because that house has a 2-car garage, that brings way more value than the next door house that sold for the same price without, but it was Mac Daddied out. And she was like, oh, nobody's ever told me that. So
where do you learn that?
That's from going to the Preservation Society meetings, to the RAP meetings, to the community board meetings, because that type of community in the older sections, I need to know this. It drives that because of those being. I need to know all of these things so that when that comes up, it's like, oh, that's easy. Right. That's ingrained. Now, if I'm an agent who doesn't live there, because you're directly involved, picking up the phone, call another agent. Call an agent that is in there. Hey, my customer's doubting me. Make the phone call and get some more information. I've been doing this for 8 years now, 9 years, and I just called one of my friends over in Ponte Vedra because I have a listing that is 2.1 million, and it's not on the water view, not on the water, and I was like, how do you comp this? Because this is not compable. Yeah. So I called her and I was like, what do you think? Will you do a walkthrough with me? And there's a shame in that. She is knowledgeable in that. So she's knowledgeable. She passes on, but she might have learned something too when she got over, because she saw this house and being on the inside of the house. How nice to say when someone says, I'm looking at that. Oh yeah, I know that house. I've been in that house. That has a great pool. Whatever and for me, it's on the island and it's just not on the water. So you can't comp it on the water. So how are we doing this? Where our appraisals come from? Yep. How do you do? So it's getting that knowledge from someone else, and not being, too proud to say, hey, what do you think? Right. I need some collaboration here. Surrounding yourself by other successful people. Now, you've obviously, your younger brother, Jeremy, is he still in the business? Yes, he is.
Becky, your sister's in the business. You're in the business, so there's a lot of shop talk.
A lot.
All three of you do. Is there anyone else in the business?
So my brother Andrew is a loan officer.
Okay.
And my brother Josh is the CEO of Cady Studios.
Okay, so
And then
he's the only one non-real estate.
He does have his real estate license because he
wants to get the referral fee from you guys.
That would probably be a true fact. No, they have a little division in Cady, so they buy their own properties.
Okay, all right. So, but for the most part, the 4 of the 5 of you are talking shop
all the time,
and all of you are successful in your own rights within the industry. So that for you, it's easy in the family. But what do you do to reach out and touch some of the other successful people in town?
Definitely, I try to go to as many events as I can. I love the one-on-one conversations with the agents that come across our desk on the other side of the transaction. So I think I said that at the beginning of this. It is when they come in, it's creating those relationships individually. That's just what I do.
You're taking time. Someone's now got a contract on the other side, so now you're working with them. You're taking the extra time
to talk with the agent. I want to talk with...
To exploit that opportunity to build a relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's not a building the relationships with an ulterior motive of, come join this.
Right.
Absolutely not. Because I'm not growing that way.
Right. Well, I mean, how important has it been in the last, the competitiveness of the offers and so forth, that when an offer comes in and one of these people who you spent time with goes, oh, Missy's on the other side of this offer.
Last year, it was gold. When I would see certain people come across our desk, I would say to my buyers or sellers, take this offer because I know the agent.
Yep.
I know it's solid. I know the lender. I mean, I felt like last year the lender was the love letter.
Who was on the lending side?
The lenders
that would make the phone calls to the listing agents.
The lenders that made the phone calls and told me about the clients, the agents that called me to explain about their clients, and it was those connections that were
made the difference
drivers for us
when
last
you
year.
You were helping the sellers make the decision.
And when you get 30 offers and they're all exactly the same, I would rather work with someone I know.
Right. Showing up is one of the things on the list, and I think you talked about it. Show up at the different events when you can get there. Go and meet the other realtors. They're not competitors. You have to work in collaboration.
We are collaborators.
Yes. This is the word that often comes up, typically when we're talking about social media. But what would you say in your maybe you've changed this over time and tweaked. But what are you consistently doing that you believe makes your business move?
I consistently have my marketing be about us being authentic people. It is not about our numbers. It's not about transactional count. It's not about we sold it for so much more, but it's a consistent, we care about our community and our people. So
you have developed a marketing strategy with the plan of authenticity through the plan, however it is,
and it changes. I mean, it changes because if you are really true to yourself, humanity changes. I mean, I am not the same person I was 7-8 years ago, right. And I will pivot and change. I mean, I just faced one of my biggest fears and bought a one-way ticket to Europe.
One way? Because you don't know when you're coming back?
We don't know when we're coming back. And I've wanted to do this since I was a teenager, and just decided that we were going to do it.
Why don't you just buy first class? It just has like an open-ended thing.
No, I love Coach.
No, you don't.
I actually do.
I want to fly in one of those ones where they got your own like little room and thing.
I don't mind Coach because it's just the whole flying experience. I mean, we've been flying.
A lot of hours. Me and my wife for our honeymoon, we flew from Miami to LA to Tahiti.
Oh yeah, that's a long time.
Oh, dude, yeah. You can talk about feet swelling and everything else.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
that happened when we went to Thailand.
Real quick, and you probably can. I know you can rattle it. Give us 3 tips. We got a new agent, or like you said, one of those agents is just trying 3 things that they should be doing today with today's market.
Today, I would say stick Pick one thing and stick with it. You're going to hit so much information. People say, do this, make your calls, do this, do this, do this. And it's overwhelming. Pick one thing that you do well and roll it. And as you do that thing, it'll pivot and change, and you'll grow with that. And it'll become organic. It'll have offshoots, and then that'll be your thing.
Don't chase the shiny
Don't
thing.
Yeah, it's like, it's not about the CRM, and it's not about this. If you're going to have Boomtown, go all in on Boomtown. If you're going to buy Zillow leads, go all in on Zillow leads. If you're going to do coffee dates, do coffee dates. Consistent coffee dates. One thing and do it well. 10x who you are. And I would say for me, the second thing would be you. Be authentic, because people like people. People buy people. People are connected to people. And if you portray something you're not going to have that connection. And the connection is what this is all about.
We talked a little bit about pre-show, especially for real estate agents. They're buying the person, or they're selecting the person to be their representative. Whether you work for Keller Williams, Berkshire Hathaway, Compass, that is actually not the reason. They're not branded like maybe some people are for insurance or something like that, where they may chase a brand, or the lender because we're sponsoring Major League Baseball,
right?
Or basketball with Quicken or the sports. That's a whole big marketing campaign from a general standpoint to give that consumer somewhat of confidence, because I've seen the name enough times. But when it comes down to the street level and selling your personal home, it's the person.
It's the person. It's the person, and that's been my goal, is creating those relationships with people. I mean, I have people that I have been at their funerals, their weddings, their baby showers, they're people. And
well, we can go on for hours. I can ask some more questions. All right, we're gonna go to my 2-minute warning, because we're way overdue. We're gonna wrap this up. What did you say before the show? You were not that you were nervous. You see, we've gone an hour and 20 minutes. I call these my 2-minute warning questions, because I referee football, so 2-minute warning. What is your favorite thing? What do you and your family like to do here in Northeast Florida? Because I think we sell lifestyle, especially as a real estate agent. You're selling the lifestyle, and there's so many things. What do you like to do?
We are huge outdoor fans. We run. I love the downtown, the North Bank and South Bank. So we are active runners. We love to kayak. We're outdoor people, and we love to entertain in our backyards. So for me, it's supporting local businesses. I am extremely passionate about supporting our small businesses, and that's what we do. We support our little mom and pop places, and we are outdoor people.
All right. Last question, one I've asked on all 90 episodes. Is it more important who you know or what you know? And why?
Oh, that's a loaded question.
Everyone has a different opinion of it.
I think it's more important what you know.
Do you?
I do.
Why?
Because who you know, that I don't like that light.
I mean, after our entire conversation of building relationships, do you actually feel it's what you know? I
do, because if all you're doing is trying to make a way in life by who you know, so that's where my if it's who you know, like because I know you, I'm on your podcast, I wouldn't come on your podcast. But what you know and what you've put out, I respect.
Okay.
So that's where
I'll let that answer go because of the way you answered it.
So it's not to me about who. It's not because I know the president of Baptist that I am where I'm at, or because I know, but I believe it is what I know and what I've learned and what I've learned from those people.
Okay.
That's my answer.
We'll give you that. I'm a who you know.
You are a who you know.
I'm a who you know, because I feel the who's, I mean, that's like, people that immediately like take it to the bottom line. Oh, if it's who, then you're stupid. No, you're smart enough to know that hey, that guy over there is doing really well. So I need to go and like be around that. I want to be one of the 5 people in the room with that dude.
So I can see that way. I take it. I think it just is my personality and my background is I refuse to do something because of who I know, or it's like, oh, so and so's going, I guess I'm going to go there. No, I'm not showing up at an event.
If the group's going and I'm wondering why, maybe I need to go over here.
So for me, it's not about.
I agree with that.
You know, oh, you're going to the party that so and so is there. No. It's not. That's where I come from on who you know. What I know is what I've learned.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the show.
Sure.
This was a great conversation. Probably one of my, I wouldn't say the longest episode, but it's up there because we're at an hour and 20 minutes. But there was, I could go on for another couple hours with you because we were really deep, and I hope our listeners got a lot from it. So, but thanks, Missy, for coming on.
Absolutely. Right. Thanks for having me.